Well then, East Africa, fourth continent, was North America, of course. I grew up there. Then East Asia, Latin America, South America, and now Africa, here in East Africa. In Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya specifically, visited two countries, only two, a bit more difficult nowadays with COVID, just Tanzania and Kenya. But things have been interesting. I would say the most interesting out of all arguably the most interesting out of all of them. Of course, each one has their own aspects which I enjoyed and didn't enjoy, but this one is, I would say, well, let me say, this one was the most memorable for reasons that are a bit too personal and I don't want to put in public, so very memorable. I mean, things kind of went sideways. I mean, I came here to East Africa, which I did in a video back in October of last year saying I had high hopes. I was going to come to this Wild West and conquer and make a name for myself and do all these different things and make an impact, build these businesses just like in the Wild West before everything was established. It's a free-for-all where you can claim your riches. It's the Gold Mountain, the Gamsan as Cantonese, it's the Gold Mountain. I was going to come here and claim it, and well, things didn't really work out that way. But this video, it's going to be the same format as I do in every leg of this Kingston's journey, the adventure. This one is the anniversary, episode 100, triple digits now. So again, it's going to be the same format as when I end each leg of the adventure, just as when I did in Southeast Asia, then Latin America, and now here in East Africa. Now that I end this leg and I'm heading back to San Francisco for some time in a few days. So this one instead, I remember the last one I did was in Rio de Janeiro. And this one I may be rambling a lot. It's not as focused, it's a bit more personal. So if you don't want to watch it, well, it's up to you. Anyways, the last one I did of this format of the 5 questions I'd like to ask, I titled it 5 Big Questions, episode 70 of who did I help, what did I learn, who am I, what matters to me, and what am I good at? These 5 big questions as I coined them. I'm going to be answering them again, not looking at any previous videos I did. When I answered them previously in the past, this was September of last year that I last did this, or half a year now. So this time, instead of doing segments, I'm going to try to do this all out of memory. Of course, I always write it down before I do it, but this time just out of memory. Try my best to it's going to be the most natural form, the least edited, and if I miss any key points, I'll just tag an extra clip of the video at the end. So yeah, without further ado, let's try that. I'm going to try to do my best to talk about everything I'd like to put down on record. So here it goes. Oh, this is a couple churches located inside a university, by the way. The first time I did a video outside. And before I get started with that, I guess because I look so different here in East Africa, I never really put my camera like this out in public. It's just me just walking, I'm already drawing a lot of attention. I don't want to make myself a target by having this expensive looking piece of equipment just so easy for someone to nab. But this is an enclosed complex, so I don't have any problems. As you can see, there's very few people here. And I love sitting out here. It's like a park, they're quite rare here in East Africa. But anyways, 5 questions. Start with who did I help? Well, here in East Africa, instead of doing business as I originally intended, instead I got quite involved in a few churches, specifically the Church of Pentecost, the Pentecost International Worship Center, which is the international variation of the Church of Pentecost, which is originally based in Ghana, East Africa. So being international, it made someone like me here in Africa, an Asian boy, a bit easier to integrate into, which was a great experience and allowed me to elaborate a little bit into it. Not too deep, as I'll be way beyond the scope of this video, so that aside, first question, who did I help? Well, in that church, like there's always, like in the one in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, specifically, there were a lot of different people, as in people from different socioeconomic classes, you know, from the UN representatives to orphan children. And I think that I'm going to start there. The first people I helped were orphan children. So basically there were a lot of orphan kids I brought up from one orphanage specifically, and they're orphans, and what I did for them is, well, I visited their orphanage, their orphan home, which is quite far away actually, and I was taking local transport to there, 5 different buses called Audibles in Dar. There took 4 hours, and me making that effort as a foreigner, going out to see them, it meant a lot to them. I did it on a number of occasions over a number of months, which they were always happy to see me. They wanted to play with me. They called me uncle, and it was just a great old time. You know, I think it was in the Bible, which I will discuss a little bit later. It was James 1, book of James 1, I believe the last verse of the book of James 1 says that true religion is going and seeing orphans and widows in their affliction and giving them comfort, which is something that I did, visiting those orphans, playing with them, carrying them on my shoulder. But besides just that, I actually did some fundraising for them, some impromptu mission work last year, end of last year. It seems like such a long time ago now. I've been here in East Africa for half a year, which I raised a couple months rent, so for them, like enough funds to pay for a couple of months rent. So I did that, provided that for the kids as well, which I'm happy about. And in a nutshell, that's how I helped these orphans. Visited them, raised some funds. Who else did I help? Well, in that same church, there were a number of, they called them leadership events, where someone speaks about some topics such as family, or a hero in your life, or whatnot, or sometimes like something biblical. And I had the chance to speak on a number of occasions, and I think I did pretty good. Maybe I sound arrogant for saying that, but well, the fact is that after me speaking and people clapping on a number of occasions, they didn't clap for any other speakers. That's just a fact. Like even days, weeks later, like some of the church members inside that church in Dar, they'll come up to me and say Kingston, or King, as some of them like to call me. I still remember what you said about this, and it got me thinking. It inspired me to think more on that, and wants me to change this about my life. So I'm happy that some of these people in that church, some of them I call my brothers, which I do, they're great people. They were so influenced by what I had to say, and it affected their life that way. And I'd like to think it improved their life in some way. Me providing some insights, as I do have, I would say, a lot of worldly experiences, having been in so many different countries and so many different career fields. So I'm glad it was useful to them in some way. So there's that, and there's also the pastor in Dar. I call him Manny. I helped him in some ways. Now that I think about it, I didn't help him that much. I cleaned the church when there was a huge flooding. Flooding in Dar is terrible. I also did some graphic designs for him, some other miscellaneous technology related stuff, but I didn't help him that much in hindsight. I noticed he invested a whole lot of time in me, more than your average churchgoer, which maybe he sees something in me. This this foreigner. But yeah, I helped him a little bit. And then that was Dar, and those were the highlights of Dar, people I helped. In Kenya, in Nairobi, I had the chance to shadow some volunteer workers with the Kenyan Red Cross, the Red Cross Society, where they were teaching kids about, well, youths, high school students and young adults about financial education. And I got to put some of my accounting skills and financial technology, like very basic stuff really, nothing really spectacular, into use, and did a few presentations, a few speeches, and I think it helped them in some way, like sharing the knowledge I know. So I helped these youths that were living in slums, which they call informal settlements here in Nairobi. So I helped them. And lastly, the church here, which is like just in this complex actually, is another branch of the PIWC, Pentecost International Worship Center, where I helped. And this is the first time I joined a church, by the way, I forgot to mention. And this, they didn't have a website, which they really wanted one, and they didn't have anyone here in Kenya capable of building a website for this church. And me having this YouTube channel and a website of my own, which I've been running for a number of years now, actually. I think it's been 2 years, more than 2 years. I have experience with it, so I helped them build out a website. I helped the bishop here build a website of his own, as well, like personalized emails, like all this technology stuff, which they've found very helpful, and it's helped with their mission, which I'm happy to have been assistance to them. And I think I'll mention this one later actually. So, because these like 5 questions, they're going to get a little bit mixed together, so I'll just try to keep this one a bit more contained. So I think this is the first one. I think it's going to be the longest one. It's who did I help? That's the first question. Now, the second question here at the 12-minute mark. Second question, what did I learn? Well, like I mentioned briefly in the previous question, I don't have any religious background, nor do I have any knowledge about the Bible, nor when I went inside a church, I really wasn't looking to learn more about the Bible. That wasn't my intention. I've been attending so many Sunday services and other different types of services outside of Sunday services, such as Bible studies, that some of it just eventually just rubs off on you. So I would say that I have some basic understanding of Scripture. Yeah, like I know like bits and pieces about mainly the New Testament, Book of James specifically, which is my personal favorite. So that's something that I learned, like some things about Scripture, as well as how a church works, basically how it's run, like a basic framework of it. Other things I learned besides just the church, I also learned, I guess I didn't really have much experience of this in Asia and Latin America, but here in East Africa, I still do a lot of walking. I use public transport quite often as well. And me, as a foreigner, getting onto local transport, I get a lot of stares, which doesn't really bother me anymore, actually. Like, people stare at me, and if I'm with a local person that is black, and they say, "Oh, King, everyone's staring at you," I say, "Oh, really? I don't notice." I guess I'm a walking museum, but I learned quite a bit about navigating an urban setting with local transport when you look so different. I mean, I look different in Latin America, but I didn't use local transport all that often. And in the cities where I did, they were quite metropolitan, as in like many different cultures, such as Sao Paulo, Brazil. Like there's so many blacks, whites, Latins, if that's the right term, Asians, where I didn't stand out on local transport, but here I definitely do. I rarely see locals here on public transport here, so that's something else I learned. Trying to do this from memory is getting a bit difficult. Other things I learned. Again, like being inside a church, like all the different things that are going on inside a church, is like something a bit more concrete. It's learning how to play musical instruments. I mean, in Latin America, I learned the guitar, the basics anyways of the acoustic guitar, and here I learned the piano, the keyboard, as well as the drums. Of course, just basics. Feel free to watch my videos on the drums and piano, and the old guitar ones as well. So I learned that, and also with the drums, I actually played the drums in one of the Sunday services here in Kenya, because they didn't have anyone. I'm not great, nor am I really good, but I know the basics, and there wasn't anyone on the drums, so I just got up during the service and I just picked up the sticks and started going. So that was great. Takes confidence, I'll use that word. That was a great experience, and learning these instruments, they're fun. It's something I didn't grow up with, so it's interesting to engage at this different part of my brain. So that's something else I learned, piano and drums, the basics. As well as, besides these, something more else that's more concrete with the Red Cross, I took some training courses there and learned some basics about fire safety. Something very concrete is how to use a fire extinguisher, got to use one of them, as well as like basic awareness about fire hazards and whatnot, as well as first aid. These skills are probably going to come in handy later on in life, so just have them in my back pocket right now, and it's just my job to keep them fresh. So there's that. And on a bit more somber notes, I've learned to develop a thick skin. As you see the skin here, it looks different than your average African skin. And I've gotten a number of comments from people that are unwelcome, let's just say. And initially it made me angry, but I've just learned that through some guidance from the people around me that, you know, the people, when they say words to you, that's the laziest form of weapon they can use on you. And it is only going to have an effect on you if you let it have an effect on you. So it's best to just show some class and don't pay any mind, don't pay any heed. And it's just like how Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, he's a Holocaust survivor and a doctor, psychiatrist, I believe. He said, the last of the human freedoms is choosing how you react to things. So I think with the amount of comments I received here in this region of the world, not knocking it, but it's helped me gain first-hand experience in learning how to do that, of not letting things control you and controlling your reaction to external stimuli. And one more thing, I still feel like I'm missing one other thing, but one more thing I learned is Swahili, the basics. So just like basic greetings and whatnot, as well as how to navigate inside society. I mean, I did a video way back when, last year, about all the Thai I learned. And this Swahili I learned, I think, is quite a bit more, because I've been a bit more involved in segments of the East African community that I just picked up the language, especially in Tanzania, where Swahili is so common. I just picked up a lot of it. It's not great, of course it's not, it's just the basics, but I think it's just a substantial amount. It's difficult to describe in words. Yeah, the last thing I forgot to mention is learning how to, here in East Africa, how to integrate into society. I mean, I can't completely because, well, I'm still a foreigner, but I've learned that if you join subsections of the society, such as a church, it just gives you access to so many more people and actually being part of something, part of a group, part of a social group. Especially when you're like me, you're a foreigner all by yourself. That's something that I've learned here. Just join groups, like even if you don't have any shared interests. Like I didn't come here as a Christian. I still joined, and that's how I found community. That's how I was able to integrate myself into society as much as I did, through that. Just through joining subsections of the community. That's something I learned here. So that's the second question. I'm still going off of memory. Third question. This is going to be a very long video. Again, these three next questions are going to get a bit mixed, so I'm going to try to separate them as best as I can. So question 3, it's who am I? Who am I? Well, I would say I'm a quite, compared to, well, I shouldn't compare, but I would say about myself, compared to my old self before I started this odyssey, let's just say that, before I started this odyssey, myself now today, May 2021, I think I'm a quite open-minded person because I've experienced so many different cultures across 4 continents. I've been a part of them in varying extents. I'm quite open. It's beyond just the culture, how people look, how they speak, how they act, how they eat, what they eat. It's also the variety of different socioeconomic classes of people I've interacted with, and here specifically in East Africa. Here in East Africa, I visited the homes of pastors, of students, of UN representatives, to orphans, to bishops, you know. So all these different type of people from different backgrounds, you know, from the slums to very nicely gated communities, nicely gated houses next to embassies. It may not make sense now, like the stuff I learned from them, especially from the people that are less than privileged, that people think, oh, these people, what they have to say, what does it matter? I think all these pieces of information, all these experiences I've had, they make who I am. And eventually, though it may not make sense now, the stuff I learned here, it's going to find its place. I'm going to find some use for it. I think one of my relatives says that right now I'm looking for gold. Not gold as in something of monetary value, but gold as in up here. Gold that is, it's something that is going to be valuable in my life later on. An experience, a skill, a connection that can be very useful later on in life. Yeah. I think it's that gold that I'm acquiring, that I've acquired here in East Africa. I think that was a large part of the meaning but behind all of the interactions I've had here in East Africa, Kenya and Tanzania. So that's my answer of who am I, and now what matters to me. I remember I counted the stamps on my passport. I got a new passport here, by the way, in Kenya. 18 countries, which is quite substantial, I think, especially nowadays. I think 8 of the countries have been during times of COVID since last year, 2020, which hasn't been easy. And all these different countries, that I found what matters to me, if you just go and you see the sites, as in like a famous landmark. I'll take a few that I went to, Cambodia, Angkor Wat, or Brazil, Christ the Redeemer, or maybe a safari here in East Africa. I mean, you see them, it's great, but eventually you go to so many different countries like I have, like it stops having so much meaning to it. You know, you've already seen something like, oh, this in that country was very spectacular, can't this top it? I mean, frankly, it just gets old if you just go there to see the sights. So what matters to me, it's not sitting behind an office. Again, that's what I left behind more than 2 years ago. I knew that I wouldn't, and I'm not looking back. There's that's not it. That's not sitting behind an office, nor is it just going to a country and seeing the sights, being in some little capsule, being whisked away in some tour group. That's not it either. Again, I think I mentioned this in the previous video where I answered these 5 questions back in Brazil, September of last year, where it's people that matter to me. It's the people. I mean, I think some of helping them, assisting them, just interacting with them, spending time with them, especially since these people that I'm interacting with are from such a different culture. They have such a different perspective on what is life, which is a very big question, which we're not going to answer here in this video. They have such a different perspective on how to live life, their philosophy of life. And not just the culture, but again, it's their station in life on the economic ladder. Interacting with someone that is very wealthy versus someone that is not so wealthy. You gain all these different perspectives from them. That's invaluable. And I would say the most memorable memories I've had they're not the places I've been to, especially not the places I've been to by myself, though of course those are great, especially when they've been an adventure. But the most memorable places I've been to, it's the people that I've crossed paths with, where our lives intersected for however brief or however long, however close, however distant. We interacted in some way. And we shared an experience, or better yet, we shared a struggle. And we bonded on that. That to me, that is priceless. And that matters to me. Now it's a matter of how can I have greater ties with people that I meet? How can I assist them more? How can I bind my life to other people? How can I do it in a better way, for lack of better words, so that more of these shared experiences, shared struggles that matter so much to me, how can they be more impactful? I don't think I worded that the best, but that's my answer to what matters to me. People, for the long and short of it. And the last question 5, is what am I good at? Well, what am I good at? I would say, again, this is going to intersect with some of the things I've already previously said. Me being on my own, traveling for so long, I think I've learned a thing or two. And part of that, what I learned, especially in these past 6 months, is how to become a part of some sort of community within a society, which is church specifically here on this leg. And that's something I've learned more about, something I've gotten pretty decent at, I think, at least a lot better at. I mean, I think I started these traveling all by myself and feeling lonely. Of course, at times I still feel lonely, but a lot less now. I think I've learned how to build connections, especially when you're by yourself, and that's something I think I've gotten pretty decent at, which still has a lot of room for improvement, though. So there's that. Good at that. Integrating into a new society, a foreign society, on a foreign continent, best I can, as best as a foreigner can, anyways. There's that. And other things I'm good at, well, I think since I've been to so many different places by myself, you just have to pick things up as you go along. You can't plan for everything, Not in the lifestyle I'm living from, going to country by myself. And that leads to building a lot of different skills. And some of them are concrete, some are a bit more abstract. Building new skills when you're starting from nothing, that's something I think I'm pretty decent at. Examples? I'm not going to give any examples, but, well, maybe like the piano or the drums, or just going to Africa by yourself. There's that, when you look like a foreigner. So that's something I think I'm pretty good at as well, building new skills. Of course, next step beyond that now is you know how to build these skills, now how to make them great, take them from good to great. I mean, some things I'm good at is all the different nuances of living in a foreign country, I think I'm good at. Also speaking is a big one. I think I'm pretty decent at that as well. As well as different aspects of technology, such as websites, social media, like building these things. I think these three things, speaking, living abroad, and this technology thing, from websites, programming, social media, I'm going to take these things that I'm good at and really put a lot more effort to make them really, really good, improve them. Not just building a wide range of skills, but having like a few things that you're specialized in. So I think those are the things that I would say I'm good at, and that's my answer to these 5 questions. It's, again, some of them I feel like it's repetitive over the videos I've done in the past when I'm answering these, but that's my take, my personal take on these 5 questions of who did I help, what did I learn, who am I, what matters to me, and what am I good at. And now here in East Africa, again, things didn't really go as planned. I think I came here wildly optimistic that this is the Wild West and I was going to conquer it. Yet I didn't really have any set goals, any set plans, any concrete steps on how I was going to get to where I wanted to go, which I find now it was a learning experience. I just expected things to go right without having a plan for them. That's not going to work. And it also doesn't hurt to be a little bit pessimistic, as things oftentimes don't work out. And if you're a bit pessimistic, you're going to be a bit more emotionally stable to handle the curveballs that life throws at you. So I think the next leg of my journey, I'm going to be a bit more mentally prepared, more emotionally prepared as well, a bit more mature when going into the next leg of this game of life we are in. East Africa taught me a lot of things. Like I mentioned a lot of them to you, and like such as building a network of people, which I actually can take from country to country now, as I did from Tanzania to Kenya, just getting friends of friends from friends you already have in one country. Also other things that are a bit more abstract and other things are a bit too personal to be put in public, that I've learned that has made me into a more well-rounded person. There were aspects of my life that were severely deficient, let's say, which I won't get into. Parts of my life that were severely deficient that were made more whole here in East Africa. And now it's a matter of taking this fairly well-roundedness that I've developed here in East Africa, taking that nice round ball, turning it into a spear, and turning it into focus. That's all I have to say about East Africa. Head back to San Fran in a few days, and I already have a plan on what I'm going to do, but for now I'm going to save that for the next time. So until then, this has been Kingston, and see you in the next one.